What it do? What's up, y'all? Mr. Still coming at you live again. And today I'm just gonna vibe and talk about a season I've been going through. I've not wanted to talk about this kind of stuff, and I've decided, I need to use this channel not only for like entertainment and education, but to also, you know, almost like a virtual journal, to be authentic so that you can actually get to know who I really am and, maybe relate to me if, you can understand or relate to what I'm going through. So, yeah, and I usually do a bunch of different takes and try to edit, and I'm not going to do that at all this time. I'm just going to flow. So, as always, not legal advice or financial advice. I don't even think I'm going to talk about anything like that, but just to be sure. So, I've been on a roller coaster of seasons in my life. I had a really good job at a law firm and was co creating a title company and kind of managing this law firm. There had been like loose conversations about equity, and unfortunately, that did not happen. So I'd spent several years, close to 5 years, kind of creating and starting and running this business that, I really treated as my own and thought was my own. And in all fairness, I think I should have drilled down a little bit more on expectations. And I also think that the owner and attorney, who were really good friends still, like great friends, and we still do business with each other, but I don't think he thought I was going to actually get the company up and running. And so after several years, like we were running, and during COVID, we had some really strong months, some like pretty good years, but scalability was difficult. I wanted to scale, and the owner and attorney, due to poor employees he had dealt with in the past, I think had like serious trust issues, and with regards to trusting employees and scaling and stuff like that. So it became very difficult, and so then we slowed down after COVID a lot, and you could tell like there was a strain on him from the title side, and now I was working more from a managerial position on the legal side, and so we decided to obviously remain friends, but I decided to leave and go into real estate full time. And so last year was my first year doing that. I had had my license for 7 8 years, but I'd never done it full time. I'd always just done it on the side to make extra money, and it was great, right? You can supplement, an already decent income. You add 20, 30, $40,000 to an already pretty good income. It's just, you know, icing cherry on top. And so, the nerves of losing that salary and that job really propelled me forward. And I had a pretty strong year last year. I didn't even get a full year in real estate, and I still had 15 closings last year, roughly, maybe 14, 15 closings, which is pretty good. They weren't all massive closings, but pretty good for a first full time year. And the money was really flowing in. I was getting some really big paychecks. And although I definitely did some things right, very Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and had 3 months of savings and stuff like that. I did go to Europe for 3 weeks and spent close to a week in France, and then another 2 weeks, over 2 weeks in Barcelona, Spain, which was amazing. It was great, but obviously that was some money, and as the end of last year kind of came to an end, things started slowing down for me. The pipeline that I had aggressively built, that was still kind of coming off the tail end of COVID, was I realized was running out. And so my last closing basically happened at the end of last year, beginning of this year. So it's been a really long time. We know we're knocking on June right now. So yeah, I mean, 4 or 5 months plus is a long time to go with no paycheck, because obviously real estate is strictly commission. And I'm 33 now, and so I'm coming from this like, oh, I had made it at this law firm, co-creating a company, good salary, having like a lot of freedom to operate, being the right hand man to this attorney, learning from him, being educated and mentored, and really gaining a wealth of knowledge that's really served me in real estate, and having a lot of stability to like, yeah, I mean, being in a really down season. And I mean, a couple months back, I was like, oh, dude, I'm burning a hole in my savings, and it's just a matter of time. I mean, it doesn't matter how many months or tens of thousands of dollars you have put back when you're going months and months, close to half a year. The bills keep coming. I had a pretty large truck payment for a nice 4x4 truck that I really enjoyed, and I have my whole. Had to do this 180, to get my cost of living down. I had to trade in my truck. I bought like a Honda Accord, still a great car. Ain't nothing wrong with a Honda Accord. But I needed to be able to like, I was trying to figure out how could I, make some extra money to sustain myself. I've started Ubering, which is just brutal. I mean, I can't explain to you what a beatdown Ubering can be, especially if you're like a high energy go getter person. It's great to be able to talk to people. I've definitely been networking and trying to hand out business cards, but like a 10, 11 hour day Ubering in the car is just awful. And I mean, there are bad days. I Ubered for like 11 and a half hours and made $140 after gas, which was $30. I made $110, which that is a long day for basically $100, man. And I'm currently actually looking for something else like serving. I refuse to go back to a 9 to 5. I'm going to stay the course, continue working on my real estate. I need to be available for clients. If I get a call, I need to be able to answer that call. I cannot, I cannot be stuck in a cubicle or at a corporate office like I have been in the past. I know how soul sucking that can be, as well as, oh, excuse me, as well as, as well as, I don't have the freedom to take those calls and function the way I need to. Real estate and being kind of like an entrepreneur, like you might have a call come through and that could be like a $10,000, $20,000 call. You need to be able to answer that freaking phone, dude. And so if I'm having to wait till the end of the day till I get off at 5:30 or whatever to call someone back, I could miss an opportunity. Plus, I mean, if someone needs to go look at a home during the middle of the day, I can't do that if I'm working so I'm staying the course and I'm not giving up, and I'm going to continue to also work on like this YouTube channel, Instagram, stuff like that. But I've just been feeling super shitty going from like, oh, I made it to, kind of thinking you're going to get equity. You're pouring your heart and soul into a business that you think is yours, having like a decent pay, salary, bonuses, still making even extra money on the side doing real estate, to not getting paid in quite a long time and Uber driving and like, trading in, your vehicle and all of that. Dude, what a beatdown. What a humbling experience. And I think this is, again, silver lining, trying to be positive. I think it's great. I think we all need to be humbled sometimes. And I think this is only going to make me that much better. Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, being someone like in real estate where it's inconsistent pay, it's not for everybody. And the masses can't deal with it. I think most people would have abandoned ship months ago. And, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to build my business. I'm going to continue to work on me. I'm not going to give up the freedom, and I'm going to find a way to make that money and grow myself, my real estate business, my content creation business, you name it. And But it's tough. It's tough. It's a beat down. And I think it's easy to look at like millionaires and billionaires and all these like big entrepreneurs who've had these highs and lows and be like, oh, I would be fine during that. I'd be fine. You know, it's like, dude, you still made a couple million, but then you lost it all, but then you made it again. It's like, dude, you know, there's a lot of us who have just, you know, never even made close to a million and look at that kind of person and go, hey, bro, like you were making millions. Yeah, you're low right now, but like, bro, you're still like, you know, you're in a nice house, you have cars, you know, like you have access to credit, like you're fine. Like you're not me. You're not Ubering or waiting tables, you know, or living paycheck to paycheck per se, like a lot of us. But I wanted to just take this moment and do this episode to kind of just like vent and be like, yeah, like fucking brutal. It's rough. And, you know, shout out to like all the different YouTubers who, you know, from Luke Belmar to Hamza. I mean, there's so many really cool, you know, entrepreneurs and YouTubers out there who give tons of great advice and encouragement, you know, trying to get your, you know, vibrational frequencies up, focus on, you know, God, focus on your business, being productive at a daily basis, you know, staying on it. I mean, from Diary of a CEO to just, I mean, tons of different. I'm always watching that kind of stuff, man. I'm trying to elevate myself. I'm trying to gain wisdom and wealth and knowledge, take better care of my body, take better care of my mind, better care of my soul, and figure out how I can level up. But I will say, what a low period for, you know, my age, and never expected to kind of be back here after you hit a certain place. You don't expect to find yourself here again. And yeah, you know, I've been here before, right? I moved from Louisiana to Texas in my early 20s chasing success. And I mean, there were some rough times. I had basically no furniture. When I finally accumulated like one whole furniture, I bought like this love seat. I had a mattress on the floor, and I had this red love seat I bought off Facebook Marketplace. And my buddy, one of my buddies that I had met through a girl I was talking to, and I was like kind of like in the club scene and EDM scene and all of that. He would come over and hang out, and he wasn't, you know, living the best of life either. And pretty sure he gave my apartment bed bugs, and so I had to like throw all of like these two pieces, my mattress and my love seat. Like I remember getting this love seat and calling like a couple buddies of mine, like, "Hey, I got my first furniture. I have one whole furniture," and then being like, "Wait, what?" And you know, I felt so discouraged because I was having to like throw this stuff out, and and I was working finance for Capital One at the time and had this giant, just brutal experience with my current manager. I was in a awful program. I was like a senior coordinator. They give you all these cool, but I was in loss mitigations in the auto finance department. And so I was managing accounts for like delinquent accounts. And it was brutal. And I was not like this asshole. So I couldn't just like, you know, I've done sales, I've done car sales. I can be a killer, but like I'm empathetic. And, you know, these people would be really struggling sometimes, and it would just pull on your heartstrings. And so I just was like, you know, the name of the game was to be kind of like a brutal asshole and like scare these people into like making a payment to get them out of your department, like to get them out of like the, you know, the 1 month to 2 month delayed delinquent department, to try to like, and you would get like bonuses and encouragement when you like, you're behind, we're going to tow your car, like, whatever. Right. And so, I aspired. I saw myself as like this CEO and entrepreneur, and I was like so motivated. And I was getting some mentorship from a girlfriend's uncle who lived in Highland Park at the time, who was like a massive entrepreneur. I mean, he created companies and sold them, and that's what he would do. He would do copy, paste, repeat. And so I found a department that that basically your job was to be like a gopher for like these higher ups, like these CEOs and CFOs and COOs and all of that, right, within Capital One. And I was like, oh my God, dude, this would be amazing. I mean, I would be getting hand in hand experience mentoring under and shadowing under these like basically these types of individuals that I think I'm going to connect with better. And it was and so I burned some of my lunches doing shadows and like seeing if on that floor within that department to see if I'd be a good fit, to see if they'd be willing to take me on. And I'll never forget the hiring manager was his Giovanni, and he loved me. And he's like, dude, your energy's great. You're so high energy. Like you're sharp, you're smart, you're clean cut. You're gonna be great. Like this is great. And so after burning several lunches and doing applying for that position, I had like my final interview set up on like a Thursday, and so unbeknownst to me, you had to have like a dual sign off. The not just the hiring manager for the new department, but the current manager of whatever department you were in had to like also give you his blessing. And I just didn't really get it. And I was planning on like once I had like for sure gotten the position, I was going to go to my manager and be like, hey, I've been burning some lunches. I wanted to let you know, give you notice. It looks like they do want to bring me onto their department, and they mentioned being able to maybe start me in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, right? And like give obviously not like go behind this person's back, but I wanted to kind of secure something and see if there was even any potential for it first. And so I come in on this Thursday for my final interview for the new department. And it was a lateral move, right? So I'm not going to make any more money. I'm literally just jumping to another department where I think I'd be able to serve the company better, where I think I'd be able to enjoy. I was just miserable in this cubicle, man. I wanted to move around. I wanted to I'd much rather go get coffee for a CEO at the time in my early 20s and sit in on meetings and run errands and do whatever they need, right? Rather than like sit in this cubicle and call accounts and just like, oh. So anyway, I come in and I'm working and I get an email on like the intranet or whatever that Capital One has at the time. And it's notifying me that my final interview has been canceled. And I was like, my heart just drops. And so I go to this hiring manager, Giovanni, and I go, hey man, what happened, dude? I thought you liked me, man. Thought I was going to be a good fit for this position. I was so excited. And I'm super bummed. I got an email that my interview's canceled. I'm like, what's up, bro? And he's like, dude, yeah, man, I'm so sorry, bro. Like I signed off on it, but you have to get approval from not just the hiring manager, which is me, but your current manager. And dude, I think you'd be great. I freaking love you, bro. Like I was super excited too, man. But your current manager did not approve the transition. And I was like, really? I was like, okay. And so I go to my current manager. I don't even remember this guy's name. And this overweight, middle-aged white guy, he wasn't like a bad guy. But he had, like, his soul had just been sucked out of him. And I can tell you why. I go to him and I'm like, hey, man, what happened, dude? Like, I think we both know, like, I'm not really a good fit for this, department. I'm really struggling to hit, like, quotas and numbers. I think I'd better serve Capital One, in this other department, man. And they told me you rejected my lateral promotion. And he goes, oh, well, you've only been in your current role for 16 months, and you're technically required to be in any one role before making a move, even a lateral move, for 18 months. And I just remember being like, what the fuck, you piece of shit. I was livid. And this is a guy, and I looked at him and I think I said something like, 2 months, man? Like, what's the big deal? I'm not getting paid anymore. We both know, like, I might not make it 2 months in this department, man. I'm not serving you. I'm not doing as good of a, like, I have so much potential, but clearly not in this particular department. And I think I could benefit the company better. Like, why is the 2 months such a big deal? And he was like, well, I was in your position for almost 4 years before I ever even promoted. And I was just like, there it is. There it is. This is just a salty person who doesn't want to see anyone else succeed any faster than they did. I had to put in the time, so you have to too. I suffered, so you did too. Blah, blah, blah. And I just remember being like, seriously, man? Like, that's why? This is a, well, I had to, so you have to too kind of thing. And sure enough, within like 2 weeks, I mean, I'd given up, right? So my numbers were dropping below even further. And I was so fed up. I was pissed, man. I was like, fuck this guy, fuck this company. Like, and I was already, like, I was so ready to just give this guy the middle finger and quit. And he called me into a meeting to like talk about my numbers and like how I needed to get my numbers up and all of this. And I got such an attitude, man. I was literally like, dude, this is like like 3 weeks ago we were talking about this, how I'm struggling in this department. Like, I'm not as good of a fit. That's why I was trying to move to a better department that I'd be able to serve the company better and add more value and really utilize my skills that I have personally for my type of personality. And you stopped me. It's like, and there was another manager in there who had no idea about any of this. And you could tell they were just like, ooh. And I mean, I was just giving it to him for the most part. And, he kind of said like, oh, you're going to have like a certain amount of time to, get your numbers up. Otherwise there will be consequences, we're writing you up. And I was like, dude, like, I'm not going to get any better numbers, man. Like, I've been trying my soul, my heart and soul in this kind of department. But, it's like on top of not really being suited for it, I'm so discouraged because I had really found a better place and position for me within the company at no extra cost for the company. My salary, my hourly pay was not going to change. And, I was like, dude, you fucked me. And he was like, well, I don't know if you're going to be a good fit for this. It seems like it's just not working out. And I was like, you know, I think so too. Like, fuck you. Like, I quit. And he's like, no, actually, you're fired. And I just remember being like, all right, sure, whatever. And so this ended up being one of the lowest points in my life. I had been in Dallas for like maybe a year and a half. I had moved out here chasing success because, and a girl that lived in Highland Park with her family and her uncle, who was like this amazing father figure and mentor to me, who was like a multimillionaire. And it was just this combination. It was thrilling. So excited to be in this bigger city, chasing opportunity. And so I lost my job there. And in the same month, I like, or right before that, I had the place I'd been staying with family over in like the North Richland Hills area near Fort Worth. My cousin had decided to divorce her husband, and I got like no notice. And so they had told me like, yeah, you can stay here for as long as you want, stay here for like a year, whatever, year and a half, 2 years, whatever. And I hadn't even been there that long. And I get a call from the husband, who I'm not, like, I only have known since I've been staying with them. And I get home, and he's basically got a note from my cousin, like, she took the kids, I'm divorcing you, yada yada yada. And the rent was late, so we had 2 weeks to get out. So I have like 2 weeks to find my place. I miraculously find a place, and then I don't know, man, like 6 months later, I lose this Capital One job and simultaneously have my girlfriend in Highland Park break up with me and dump me. So it's like the only person I know, like this family, who I'm like a part of this family. It's like the only people I know here in this massive new big city. It's like that connection severed. And then on top of that, I've lost my job. It was rough. And I'll never forget my lowest low. I was slap out of money. I had been making like decisions to pay electricity or eat type shit. Pretty rough times. And I think I had like $1 and change in my checking account. It was brutal. And my light was on. I was driving this super shitty Toyota Camry that wouldn't even qualify for Uber anymore. I'd register it with Uber because I was desperate and I needed to make some money. And the gas light's on, and I have no money to put in this thing. Like, I don't even have enough money on my debit card to actually get approved at like the gas pump. I couldn't even put the $1 and change in there or whatever, because it checks, it hits the account for like a certain amount, and like it ain't got it. And so I just kind of like, all right, God, I shoot up a prayer and ask for help, and I'm like, I got a Uber. I got an Uber to make some money. And so I'm praying that I get like a short Uber request. Because if it's like too long of a request and I accept it and I have to go too far, it's I'm gonna run out of gas. And so sure enough, I get like a pretty short, like I don't know, like a 5 or 8 minute Uber ride or something like that. And the whole time, I mean, I'm cool as a cucumber. In time, I'm just sweating because it's like, it's an older car. It doesn't tell you how many miles you got left. The gas light had already been on for a while. Thank God this little four-banger Camry just got exceptional gas mileage and can run off nothing but fumes. And I drop this person off. I roll into the closest gas station sputtering. I pay the $1 and change fee to insta cash out the $5 I just made or whatever it is, or $4, and put that in the tank. And I spend all day doing that after every Uber, like getting enough gas in the tank but that I'm not sweating, and like ending the day with roughly a full tank of gas and maybe like $10 in my account or something. I don't remember. It was a hard day. And that was one of my lowest lows. And I remember being so excited about that time looking back at it, but also thinking like, oh, I'm never going to go back there. And yeah, I'm not quite back there, but it's been feeling pretty similar. Pretty similar. So I don't even think I have like a moral to it, all of this nonsense. But if you're going through a time like this and you can relate, I would just say stay the course. Don't give up. Don't focus on the bad. Keep going. Do not give up, because the next one is around the corner. You're going to look back on these times and the excitement, the thrill, the uncertainty I mean, when things you're doing really good, it's boring, man. I mean, I remember looking back at the time I was just telling you about while I was working at that law firm and just thinking like, man, I kind of miss, like, because it was such a wild time where anything could happen. Anything was possible. Like the worst thing in the world could happen. Like one thing could just ruin my entire day, my entire life. But also like could meet one person, like a single person could change my whole life. Like you never know who you're talking to in a big city like Dallas Fort Worth, and one person could recognize your potential and change your entire world forever. And that's the kind of mindset you got to have. You got to stay positive. So if you are or have ever been in something like this, a situation like this, when you're down and out, just keep going, hone it in, focus, take it day by day, focus on your goals, making progress, do a little bit better every day. Try to, sleep a little bit better, eat a little bit cleaner, work out, run, get sunlight, focus on your goals, get those objectives completed. Don't give up. And I think that's what I'm going to name this video, is Don't Give Up. And, so I do appreciate you if you made it this far, just listening to me vent, I guess. This is almost like a journal entry, I feel like. But Wild times. Wild times. Yeah. It's so funny too, like when things are, I was so cocky during this past time when I had nothing, man. I remember going out to eat with this one girl. I didn't have enough money to even pay for dinner, and she's super hot, right? Like, it's so crazy, like how it when I've been down and out in a brokey, I've been able to pull some of the like sexiest women ever. And then there's been times where I was like, I mean, both, right? I've pulled pretty attractive women when I was, doing very well too. But it's so interesting to look back at some of those times and be like, how was I pulling? Like I had nothing, man, but I was just, walking tall, dude, was just bulletproof. And yeah, it's so interesting how like when something's going wrong, other things can be going right. Obviously I'm looking for more quality substance when it comes to women these days. And obviously was chasing, very highly attractive physically women and that were like in the clubs and going to music fest and stuff. And these days I'm looking for a much higher quality woman and trying not to look with just my eyes. But that being said, yeah, it was such an interesting time, such a fun time. Yeah, I don't regret it one bit. Yeah, I really hope and I pray that if you're in a similar situation, that you don't give up and you keep going, and something's gonna break. I mean, keep running head on at 110%, and eventually you're gonna hit a door and it's gonna fly wide open, and it's gonna be one of the best opportunities of your life. And you're gonna look back just like I did, and just like I'm gonna do again, and you're gonna laugh and revel at these down seasons that you were in when you were barely able to eat or couldn't afford, you know, whatever, right? We'll look back on these moments and we'll laugh. And it'll make being rich and successful and wealthy all all the more valuable. I do. I think as someone who has come from humble beginnings and has experienced multiple low seasons and high seasons, it makes those high seasons, it makes you appreciate the money and the wealth and the opportunity and nice stuff so much more when you've been at the bottom. And I pity people who are born into just hyper wealthy scenarios where they could never be down and out even if they wanted to. I mean, even if they're strung out on drugs and, you know, haven't worked in years. I mean, it's like mommy and daddy will just bail them out every single time. There's no real risk or thrill of risk. And the real burden isn't truly on their shoulders. There's always someone to rescue them. I pity those people because if you've come from nothing or a more humble beginning and you've really struggled before, I think it makes the wins and the success so much more satisfying. Well, I think that's about it. How long have I gone? Oh my god. 30 minutes. It does not feel like it's been 30 minutes. It probably does for y'all. Y'all are like, dude, this guy needs to shut up. All right, well, I'll wrap it up. If you actually made it to the end, wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate you listening and listening to me share. This is more like a journal entry, but yeah, my final thought is don't give up. Don't give up, y'all. I love you so much. Stay blessed. Don't give up. Keep going, and everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. All right, y'all. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Peace.